Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kasita, and welcome to this session of iTEP Writing Part 2. Uh, I hope you're well wherever you're watching me from. The reason why I made this video is to help you with writing Part 2. And basically, we are going to handle the whole part from the beginning up to the end. We will also see some examples from students who did this type of writing. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, what should you expect in writing part two? Basically, you have to write an essay between 175 to 225 words expressing your opinion. They'll give you a topic, and your responsibility is to express your opinion on the topic. It should also be important to know that Uh, although most of the times they bring an essay, there may be some cases where they bring a formal letter. So don't be dogmatic and think that it will always be an essay. Though most of the times it's an essay, sometimes they may bring a letter. Okay. However, even though they bring a letter, you will still have to be expressing your opinion within that letter. Okay, so that's what you should expect. An essay expressing your opinion using between 175 to 2 to 5 words. Okay, so that is the writing panel. When you're doing the iTEP exam online, that is how the iTEP, that is how the writing panel looks like. Here, this is the part of the exam. Then here, that is where we have the question. Okay, it is very clear. Then here where we are having a white part of the screen, that is where you'll be writing your text, your essay. Then here, as you can see, the word count, the word limit is 250. Okay, you can write up to 250, but I would advise you to stop at 220. Okay, because the words will be counting automatically. You can stop at 220 so that you can get time to do corrections and review what you've written. Then down here, that is where we have the time left panel, and that is when the panel opens in the online exam, the time will start counting down. Okay, so you have 20 minutes for everything. Yeah, I'll talk about time management a bit later. Okay, so what are the parameters for assessment? Basically, there are four parameters. One is content, another one is organization, vocabulary, and finally language. So, what do they check in content? Basically, in content, they are asking whether you've answered the question, whether the information you've written is relevant to the question that has been given to you. That is what you're supposed to know about content. Sometimes a question may have one part, sometimes it can have more than one, it can have two or three. So, the first thing to ensure is you've answered what has been asked. Secondly, organization. In organization, we ask whether your essay is organized. What is an organized essay? An organized essay is one where we can clearly see the introduction, the sentences are written in well organized paragraphs. We can separate the introduction from the body, then from the conclusion. Okay, and one of the features that can help you organize your essay properly is the use of linking words. Okay, so basically that's it about organization. And then vocabulary. Vocabulary, they ask whether you have used relevant vocabulary depending on the topic you're discussing. Okay, when you're talking about pollution, have you used words related to pollution? If the topic is about education, have you used some words related to academics? Yeah, something like that. So, vocabulary, it can range from words, it can go to expressions and phrases. Okay, so that is vocabulary. Then finally, language. With language, we basically have two things. First of all, whether you have expressed both simple and complex ideas, and in addition to that, the kind of errors that you have. Okay, remember it is okay to have an error, yeah, here and there, but that error shouldn't stop the examiner from understanding what you've written. So those are the four parameters. Content, they check whether you've answered the question. Organization, they check whether your essay is orderly. Then vocabulary, they check whether you have used the relevant words based on the topic at hand. Then language, they check whether you've used both simple and complex ideas. So, what are the important things to know about writing part two? First of all, it is upper intermediate. By upper intermediate, we mean it's at level B2 and C1. Okay, so you can knock yourself out by using any type of vocabulary that you want. Then the word limit is 225, but in the exam you can go up to 250. Okay, however, do not be tempted to write up to 250 because you may not get time to do corrections and to review everything that you've written. So you should give yourself some space to do some editing in case you want to add or subtract something. Then planning is very important. Although time is limited, you have just 20 minutes. You can spare 3 minutes, 2, 3 minutes for planning what you're going to write about. Remember, a person who plans does not run out of ideas. Then time limit is 20 minutes. I talked about that already. Then you have to reserve time for corrections because to get a good score, your writing may not be 100% error free, but it shouldn't be full of errors. So reserve 3, 4 minutes at the end to review what you've written. So, what do you do in writing part two? You have to spend most of the time answering the question. Okay, respond to what they've asked. Don't spend time writing useless stuff. The majority of your time should be spent on answering the question. Then, how do you try to revise grammar and spelling after writing? Then write between 175 to 25 to 225 so that you can leave time for corrections. Then always have the basic structure of the type of writing. If you're going to write an essay, you need to have the basic structure. If you're going to write a formal letter expressing an opinion, you need to have the basic structure. Then use the right register. By register, we mean if actually most of the time, and not most of the time, always an essay is formal. Okay, so please be formal as possible. No contractions, no slangs, no informal phrasal verbs. Okay, so be formal. Okay, so what not to do? There are many things you're not supposed to do. Number one, don't spend a lot of time deciding which position to write or to take. Okay, if you're going to support the idea, support it right away. If you are going to disagree, disagree and start writing. You have just 20 minutes for everything. Then you need to write up to 2 to 5. Okay, you don't need to go up to 250. No, you can stop between 175 to 220. That's enough. It will also give you time to do corrections. Then don't use a lot of fancy vocabulary. By fancy vocabulary, we mean these are the kind of words students use even though they don't know what they mean. Okay? And examiners can easily spot you out if you used fancy vocabulary. So make sure you stick to words you know, to words whose meanings you know well. Then please don't fail to do corrections. You have to, to reserve some time for corrections because if you don't do corrections, you're going to have a lot of grammar, spelling, and lexical errors. So you have to leave some time for correction, leave room for corrections. Then please don't fail to answer the question asked. When I always tell my students that whenever you're writing, please try to see if you answering the question. If you're not answering the question, please, you're going to get a very bad grade. Then, what is the structure? The structure is quite easy: introduction with a thesis statement, body paragraphs, and conclusion. Okay, so how do you write your introduction? Well, in your introduction, you have to state your opinion on the topic, and you can try to paraphrase the topic to show that you understand it. Okay, if the question is private cars should be banned in the city center to reduce on air pollution, express your opinion on the topic and give reasons. Well, in your introduction, you can say, I agree that vehicles of individuals should be prohibited from entering the busy streets because blah blah blah. I don't know, depending on what you want to mean. So basically, in your introduction, what you're supposed to do is to give your position. Okay, just give your position and start right away. You have to spend most of the time not in the introduction but in the body, because that is where you express your opinions. Then we can start a thesis statement in many ways. You can use I agree, you can say I somehow agree, you can say I strongly agree, you can say I somewhat agree, I disagree, I somewhat disagree, I disagree, I agree, I believe, I think, depending on what you want to write. But make sure that it is clear, because if it's a topic where you have to choose between two sides, you need to be clear and choose the side you belong to. Then, when it comes to body, it's easy. A body contains body paragraphs, and a body paragraph has three parts. We have the topic sentence, okay, a sentence expressing, uh, giving the opinion on the topic, then an explanation, and finally an example. Take an example of the question that we have here. Private cars should be banned in the city center to reduce on air pollution. Express your opinion on the topic. So in the body paragraph, this was gotten from one of our students' work. The students wrote that to begin with, banning cars from the middle of the city will help reduce on congestion. That is a topic statement. Okay, if if you're writing your body, make sure the first line is a sentence related to the topic, giving a reason clearly. After doing that, please explain what you mean. Okay, therefore will reduce on traffic jam during working hours. This will improve the flow of traffic and enable the mobility of factors of production such as people and goods. That is an example. So we have a topic sentence here: banning cars will reduce on congestion. Then the explanation is it will reduce traffic during working hours, because when there is no congestion, there is no traffic. Then the example: it helps in mobility of factors of production such as people and goods. That is a basic body paragraph. Then these are a few questions which I need to ask you guys. How many paragraphs make a good body? Basically, there is no standard number of paragraphs, but they should be more than two, but uh, not exceeding four. They are not less than two, but they are not exceeding four. Then, what makes a good paragraph? Basically, there are two things: a topic sentence, an explanation, and an example. Should all my paragraphs be for one position? No, you can decide to agree with the topic on some paragraphs, then disagree on the other. How best can I use connectors in the body? It's easy. When you're writing a body paragraph, make sure you have at least three types of connectors. You have an opening connector when you're giving your reason. You have a cause connector and an effect connector, or an exemplifying connector. Basically, three connectors for every point, and they should be from different categories, and they should be different from the connectors you've used or you're going to use in the other paragraphs. So we come to the conclusion. How do you write a conclusion? First of all,